I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to review this short, informative video regarding EPCRA reporting and how REI Engineering may be able to assist your business with reporting. My name is Samantha Schroeder, and I'm a member of the REI EHS team. I've been with the company for about a year and a half, and prior to that, worked in manufacturing. I enjoy completing environmental reporting for clients and providing information to aid in maintaining compliance. My favorite projects are those that include a long-term relationship with our clients, where I can have an in-depth understanding of their business and identify gaps in compliance, and also provide guidance to remedy those gaps. This presentation will provide a brief overview of who we are, and then dive into an overview of EPCRA and the associated reporting requirements. Lastly, I'll mention REI's ability to conduct additional reporting or consulting services outside of the scope provided. REI was established in 1991 as an environmental sister company to Northwest Petroleum Services, also known as NPS, focusing on remediation. Over time, the company expanded to land surveying, civil engineering, CAD design, and EHS consulting. REI changed its name from Remedial Engineering Inc. to REI in 2004. REI now stands for Responsive, Efficient, Innovative. Today, the team has just under 45 members and has expanded the variety of services provided. As mentioned on the previous slide, REI now performs a variety of work consisting of both construction and design civil engineering, land planning and surveying, environmental consulting, regulatory consulting, and safety consulting. Let's get into the meat of this presentation and start with EPCRA, including what it stands for, who regulates it, and the variety of requirements that fall under EPCRA. As a side note, although there are multiple requirements under EPCRA, ideally 4 primary parts, we will be focusing on 2 portions of the EPCRA reporting requirements. EPCRA stands for Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. It was passed in 1986 as a response to the United States' concern for emergency response. The United States had reasons to be concerned regarding emergency preparedness and response due to the incidents and tragedies that were occurring around the world at the time. The primary incident that comes to mind is the Bhopal, India Union Carbide plant that released 40 tons of methyl isocyanate (MIC) into the air. This release is estimated to have killed 5,000 people and injured upwards of 50,000. With the requirements of EPCRA requiring facilities to report their chemicals to the government, it allows for appropriate coordination with local emergency planning committees, also known as LEPCs, to prepare and plan for potential emergencies in the community. Various planning, such as transportation routes, contacts, evacuation routes, etc., are a part of the local emergency planning committee's responsibilities in regards to emergencies. EPCRA, however, does not regulate what can be stored at a facility, how it is released or disposed of. It just requires appropriate documentation and reporting for the chemicals at a facility if the requirements apply to the facility. The first part of EPCRA, emergency planning, is covered under Section 301 through 303. There are certain extremely hazardous substances that require a notification when stored at or above certain thresholds. While REI can help you assess and complete these emergency planning notifications, we will not be focusing on this section today. Likewise, Section 304 of EPCRA focuses on emergency release notification requirements when a facility has a chemical release of certain chemicals at or above a reportable quantity. This also will not be a focus of this presentation. However, REI could also provide guidance and assistance with emergency release notifications. The last 2 bulleted items will be discussed in more detail along with the reporting requirements associated with them. Sections 311 through 312 of EPCRA, also known as the Hazardous Chemical Storage Reporting Requirements, require the reporting of chemicals stored at a facility at or above certain thresholds. This differs from emergency planning as this is required annually and is referred to as Tier 2 reporting. There will be more information on this to follow. The last section of EPCRA, Section 313, is the Toxic Chemical Release Inventory. This differs from emergency release notification as these releases are not considered emergency and are the releases to the environment through normal practices. This is an annual report that is required to be submitted annually by July 1st by required facilities. All right, let's dive into Tier 2 reporting, shall we? Any facility handling or storing hazardous chemicals are required to submit a Tier 2 report if they meet the requirements for the quantity stored on site. Extremely hazardous substances must be reported if stored above their threshold quantity or 500 pounds, whichever is less. A very common EHS that is reported is sulfuric acid found in electric forklift batteries. It may only take a few batteries, depending on the model, to exceed the 500-pound reporting requirement. All other hazardous chemicals that require a safety data sheet must be reported on the Tier 2 report when having equal to or greater than 10,000 pounds on site. The maximum amount on site at any time should be considered. The Tier 2 reports are required to be completed annually by March 1st for the prior year. For example, the 2020 data will be due on the March 1st, 2021 report. So any chemical that was stored at or above the previously described threshold quantities must be reported. The report requires a site map that indicates the storage locations of the reported chemicals, along with other facility information such as emergency contacts, maximum occupants at any time, etc. The report requires both the average and maximum amounts of each chemical reported. The reported amounts must be in pounds. It is important to calculate your stored liquids and gases to pounds to determine if they are stored at or above the reporting thresholds. Once determination calculations have been completed, the data is submitted into the state's reporting website. For Wisconsin, the WOPR system is utilized. One benefit of utilizing the WOPR system is the fact that the website will also submit your report to the local emergency planning committee. Other states, like North Carolina, for example, require individual submittal to the state, local emergency planning committee, and fire department, depending on the county requirements. A safety data sheet shall be provided in the report for each chemical as well as emergency contacts for the site. These contacts should be individuals who are familiar with the storage locations and emergency action plans at the facility. The report requires both a work phone number as well as a number that the emergency contact may be reached outside of normal working hours. Now let's discuss how REI may be able to assist your facility in making a determination for reporting. If you are unsure whether or not you meet the threshold for reporting for either an extremely hazardous chemical like sulfuric acid or any other chemical, REI could evaluate and provide a determination. If you know you need to report but you do not have the capacity internally, REI could also handle all reporting. We typically conduct an information request at the beginning of the year with the point of contact, create facility maps in-house, and complete the submission for the facility. An on-site visit may also be required to review the chemicals you have on site. We are also a great reference for chemical review for various reporting requirements when you are either increasing storage or making chemical changes in your facility. These reporting requirements can often be overlooked during day-to-day operations. In order to have a handy cheat sheet available to facilities, REI has created a Things to Consider infographic that details why reporting is important, a high-level overview of the reporting requirements and considerations. These considerations in this infographic may be useful reminders for those in operations or purchasing. They may be making a change that will require additional reporting. If you'd like a copy of the infographic to utilize at your facility, please email ehs@reiengineering.com. The Toxic Chemical Release Inventory reporting is listed under Section 313 of the EPCRA Act. It is also known as Toxic Release Inventory, TRI, and requires facilities to report their chemical releases of specific chemicals, listed 313 chemicals. This information is made available to the public. The TRI reports are completed on either a Form A or a Form R report. Most of the reports REI has completed for clients have been on a Form R. This section is a bit more complicated/detailed than Tier 2 reporting, so this will be a high-level overview of the requirements. As mentioned, TRI reporting is a lengthier, more detailed process than any of the other components of EPCRA. It differs from Tier 2 reporting, as Tier 2 only looks at the storage and inventorying of chemicals. The goal of TRI reporting is for facilities to document how much of a hazardous pollutant was released into the environment through various media, as well as how the material was disposed of or treated if not released. This reporting process differs greatly from Tier 2, as there is a specific list of chemicals, called the listed 313 chemicals, that are required to be reported. It is important to note that this list is updated frequently as new chemicals are added to the list. For example, the 2020 reporting year is the first year PFAS will be required on the reports. In addition to specific chemicals, facilities are only subject to TRI reporting if they meet certain requirements. These are the requirements for a facility to report under Section 313 of EPCRA. The facility needs to have 10 or more full-time employees for the reporting year, fall under a specific SIC code category, and either manufacture, process, or otherwise use a listed 313 chemical at or above the reporting thresholds. The thresholds for manufacturing and processing is 25,000 pounds, and otherwise use is 10,000 pounds. There are some other chemicals that have lower thresholds, like PBT chemicals. It is important to note that the 10 full-time employees does not equal 10 individuals. The EPA defines it as at a full-time employee working 2,000 hours per year. Therefore, if your facility employs hours totaling 20,000 or more hours in a calendar year, you meet the threshold for 10 employees. It also includes owners, temporary employees, vacation, sick leave, paid time off, etc. There are also a multitude of specificities with reporting, such as de minimis amounts, exemptions, exclusions, etc. for various listed chemicals. When conducting this report, you are looking at a specific chemical. This means you could be purchasing an alloy steel. However, you are evaluating the percentage of copper in the alloy rather than the total tons of steel purchased. Again, much more detailed than the Tier 2 reporting requirements. This table displays the various SIC codes that indicate whether or not your business or facility may be subject to TRI reporting. This information is available on the EPA website as well. As mentioned previously, a detailed evaluation should be conducted of chemicals you either process, manufacture, or otherwise use at your facility. Typically, safety data sheets and purchasing records, as well as production records dependent upon if you are processing or manufacturing one of the listed chemicals in your process, are evaluated to make the determination. It is important to note that if you fall under one of the applicable SIC codes and have a total of 10 or more employees, you should be conducting an evaluation to ensure that you are not subject to reporting under TRI. And what I mean by that is if you believe you are well below the thresholds detailed in this slide, you should still be evaluating or documenting that you are not subject to reporting. As an overview, as mentioned, we typically would start with looking at your purchasing records and safety data sheets. Then we would look at your processing, manufacturing, and your otherwise use of those chemicals in your production process. And if you are subject or meet those thresholds, either that 25,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds, or other thresholds for those PBT chemicals, we would then look at where that listed 313 chemical is going. So how much is going into the finished product, scrap, released to water, through wastewater or stormwater, to air, whether it's being sent to landfill, recycling, or incineration, as well as a variety of other disposal practices. And all of those disposal practices are what get reported along with what is produced, and all of that information is made available to the public. So how can REI help you with your TRI reporting? REI can gather all applicable information from your site contacts, whether that's purchasing, manufacturing, etc. We can conduct the calculations to determine if your facility requires reporting. We can then complete reporting in the EPA database if your facility is required to report, and we can remain a future point of contact as new chemicals are purchased or a process change occurs that may require evaluations for various reporting requirements. Moving on to a few other items that we can provide assistance with from a reporting standpoint, as well as environmental consulting. We are available to conduct wastewater reporting for your facilities, stormwater monitoring and reporting, air monitoring and compliance reporting, hazardous waste reporting, and we are also available to do a variety of written programs and training such as stormwater or safety training that your facility may need. So if you have any questions or you would like some more information regarding what you've watched today in this presentation, feel free to contact the environmental team or the EHS team at ehs@reiengineering.com. And thank you for taking the time to review this.